on mute.
Hi, Shelley. I'm sorry, everybody, to have kept you waiting. The Park Commission meeting just ended.
Yeah, no problem. I like the park sweatshirt. I gotta get one of those.
Oh, thank you. Yes, it's winter in my house. Yes, we do. We have to get you a park sweatshirt. It's great.
Yes, I want a park sweatshirt.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hi, Vicky. Hi, Vic.
Happy New
Hey,
Year,
it's
Senator.
wonderful to see you.
Thank you.
Hi, Nave.
Hi, Miss Hope.
Hi, Shelley.
How are you, Hope?
Fine, thanks. How are you?
We usually see each other on the third floor.
Right.
I don't know if we're going to be used to seeing each other in person again.
I know. Hi, Linz. Hi, Debbie.
Hello, Hope. Who's administrator tonight?
Sarah, right? Or are you? Okay,
Very
Sarah's gonna do it.
I was just
Guys.
confirming.
Guys, I apologize. Debbie and I were at a commission meeting. Hi, Shelley.
Oh, Gary.
Debbie, whoever's in charge, would you please send George Latimer a link? George wants to come on.
We did send it to him, I thought.
Okay,
Yeah,
I didn't know you did.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
sorry.
I
Yeah.
meant, listen, I'm at 10% on my iPad. I may be canceled out of the meeting. So
Do you have the
Plug
battery?
in, Gary. Plug in.
it's you know something, it's in a situation.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
Doo-doo-doo-doo.
Sarah, just confirm that you know that I've just passed the credentials over to you.
Yes, I see that. Thank you.
Okay, good.
Technology.
When those batteries start going low, we gotta watch out.
Here's my problem. I have this thing set up so beautifully now, but my
Mhm.
charger doesn't work unless I bring it all the way around. Like that.
Oh, you're making me dizzy.
I'm trying to find another plug. Oh, well. Is everybody on?
I don't see Tom.
You tell me that.
I don't see Jill.
Is
Pam
Pam
is
coming?
just, Pam is connecting now.
Okay.
Sarah, would you send the link to Jeff Bender, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
I'm charging.
Hey, Opie.
If you can see me, this isn't good.
Oh, there she is.
Hi. No, I was there. I was just,
Hi, Pam.
hey, Hope. Different computer, so just had to figure things out.
Okay, that one.
Mhm.
This is the dark.
I gotta.
Better. No.
On 1 second, my Shih Tzu's having a tantrum.
Nice, Lindsay.
You know what? We're gonna have to go back to the old way.
Which is in person?
What's
I
that?
I didn't bring the binder.
Oh, God.
No, I have to- Bear with me. I have to take it off this contraption.
Oh, there's Dave. Mhm. Lindsay, did the dog settle down?
Yes, he did. He's,
Okay.
my gosh, it's terrible. My life is dictated by a 20-pound dog. But he was, when we were home with COVID, he was going to court with my dad and he used to love it. So now he's like, you know, all
He's
excited.
being isolated. He's in isolation.
Yeah. I was worried he was going to miss something.
Funny.
I have the phone on tonight because Nana's back in the hospital, so we'll see.
Oh, my goodness.
I might have to run and grab it.
Oh, what's happening?
Well, she tested negative for COVID, so she beat that, and now she's anemic, so.
Oh, wow.
It happened to my dad last year. It's rough.
It looks like we have a quorum.
Let's do this.
Still waiting to get on.
Hey, Tommy.
Hello, I'm still over here. It says waiting and it's spinning. So I don't know what's going on.
No,
I like your
you're here.
backdrop.
We just saw you.
I don't see anybody. Oh,
I see Shelley.
Yes,
Hello,
ma'am.
Senator.
Hello, Shelley.
what's going on up here?
What's the matter? You're on, aren't you?
No, I don't see anybody.
Oh,
Oh,
Tommy.
we see you.
You.
I don't see nobody. It says waiting and it's got the spinning wheel of death going.
Oh.
Maybe X out and come back in again.
Yeah, let me try that.
We were waiting for a while, so it might just be frozy.
Video. Not frozen. Not doing
Damn.
nothing.
What a great article for your daughter. I was so impressed with Kate.
Oh, the picture of her on the show?
Right, you're right. Yeah. Beautiful.
It
Very
was really
talented.
good. It was so well done, the Laramie project. I was very impressed by the high school students doing that.
Yeah.
That's a tough show to put on, much less under COVID circumstances.
Right. Well,
Well, she had 2 Westmores in a week. The previous one, she'd been wearing your Mrs. Claus outfit in, so freezing.
very talented.
Now, how did they do it? Did they stream it or?
No, they put it together over the course of a few weeks. They taped bit by bit by bit, and then one of the students edited it together over the course of like a month or so.
I'm getting it.
So,
Amazing.
more talented than me.
Oh, I bet you were in
Well,
drama.
not that
Somehow.
technical. You get me on a Zoom, you're doing okay.
This is not working too well.
Oh, we hear you.
Tommy.
Now we hear you. There you
I
go.
can't get on.
That's good. See you.
The only one I see is myself, and I still got the spinning wheel of death here.
You are there. And can you
Okay.
hear us?
I hear you.
Okay, you're there. You're there.
Okay. All right, so go ahead. You can start, and if I ever see everybody, I'll see everybody.
It's okay, because we just lost Gary. So
Oh,
He's making me dizzy. We're just teasing.
So is everyone excited for tomorrow?
Yes.
Mhm.
The memorial tonight was beautiful.
That was
I've caught it well.
Yes, it was.
sad.
Senator, how are things up in Albany? How's it at the Capitol?
I was just there today and I just drove home. They have lots of security, but not necessary. Nothing going on that poses any threats, but they certainly enhance security. I haven't been there. We've been able to vote remotely a lot of the last few times, but I wanted to be there today, so I went. But it's very empty. It's very empty. It's very, very off limits to everybody but staff and members.
don't let me do anything here.
Whole new way of doing business.
Yes.
Hopefully
Well,
not long.
Hopefully we're back to
Hopefully.
normal-ish in the fall.
Yes, vaccines.
Vaccines,
Or sooner.
Sooner.
and I do give the county credit. A bunch of my friends are teachers, and they said that the operation at the county center is smooth and easy. It's well run.
Yes,
Definitely easier than folks I know down in Suffolk.
the
They're
county's
having
been fantastic. It's been a great partner, really.
We're even working on lining up volunteers now so that when we get multiple, more vaccines, we can bring in the masses.
I'm hopeful more are coming today. I got a call from a pharmacy chain that they are getting some this week.
Really?
Yeah.
But those would be in chain and not at the public facility?
Yeah,
Or?
out of the public facilities.
Wow.
I have mine. Can you hear me?
Yes.
You can't see me.
Can't see you.
Well, that's interesting. All right. Well, maybe that's better that I'm not seen. George will be coming on at 8:15.
So I don't know what the story is with this thing.
I've never had this kind of trouble before.
It's all about the tunnels at Rytown Beach. They're haunting you.
Oh, were you on that meeting?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, lucky.
I mean, we had to figure out what was going on. So,
All right. I'll stay silent.
I can't see anybody. I can hear, but I can't see anybody.
I can see everybody, but nobody can see me.
I can't see anybody.
okay, let's just do this.
Yep.
It's 8:09, and I'm sure the senator probably is ready to plot. Having been back and forth to Albany today.
I'm fine.
All right. All right. Are we on? Are we ready then?
Yes, live on Facebook.
All right.
Yeah, let me go on Facebook. Maybe I can see them.
Welcome, everybody.
If you do, mute yourself, Tom, because there will be
Yeah. Yep,
an echo.
I'm going to do that right now.
Okay. Welcome, everybody, to the Rytown Council meeting of January 19th.
Gary, we can't hear you.
Your sound is muffled.
Ooh, there you are. There's your thumb.
There's my thumb.
Now we can hear you.
You made it.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that was weird. Now I can't see anybody because everybody disappeared.
We're all choking. This is not good.
You need a better cell phone signal where you are.
I agree. I'm around the corner.
No, what am I doing here? Come on. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm just
There
getting.
he is.
Okay.
Yeah, this is not good. Anyway, I'm
No.
holding it in my hands. Welcome everybody to the Rye Town Council meeting of January 19th, 2021. Shelley, would you like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Sure, I'm going to stand. I pledge allegiance
Allegiance
to the flag
Flag
United
of
States.
the
United States of America,
and
to
to
the
the
republic
for which
for which it stands,
one nation
and
under God,
under God,
indivisible
indivisible,
with
with
liberty
liberty
and
justice
justice for all.
Roll call, Debbie, please. Not
That's
Debbie.
okay.
Oh,
Councilperson Jill Axelrod,
Here,
Councilperson Lindsay Ann Jackson,
Here.
Councilperson Pamela Jaffe,
Here.
Councilperson Thomas Nardi,
Here.
and Supervisor Gary Zuckerman.
Here, thank you. May we have a motion to adopt the minutes of December 15th and the special meeting of December the 23rd?
So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And now we have a presentation. State Senator Shelley Mayer, whom all of you know and who's doing a great job for us. Shelley, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Gary. I had asked Supervisor Zuckerman if I could come back in early January just to update the council on some of the activities in Albany, knowing it would be the beginning of a new session and a new budget, which was produced today by the governor. And also just to make sure that I was hearing from you. And before I begin, I just want to commend you for the way, even though tonight seems like we had some Zoom problems, but the fact that you truly have a public meeting and allow public comment through Facebook and have an interaction with those you serve. And looking around at all the municipalities that I represent, not everyone is as inclusive. So I just want to thank you for that. And we're actually going to be introducing some legislation to encourage, even with remote meetings, more participation by the people in the community. So I want to thank you for that. And I'll mention a bill that Gary suggested that we are working on relevant to that issue. But just generally speaking, today the governor produced his budget. It was sort of we're just getting through it. It's very big, but it's sort of a what if budget. One is anticipating a rather modest amount of money from the federal government, and the other is anticipating a significant $13 billion from the federal government. And the governor in the original presentation did not go into the details as much as to say that if we got the smaller amount, it was likely there would be cuts. And if we got the larger amount, things would be better. But it was a rather dire and dark forecast because the economic situation in New York as a result of COVID is so dire, and a projected $14 billion deficit for the coming year. Although I am skeptical that the deficit is as great as the governor says, because some receipts have come in more than anticipated, which is a great sign. And the other thing is the actual cash budget shortfall, I think, will be far less than projected by the governor. But we're at the beginning of that conversation. And as the chair of the education committee and caring about the districts in the town of Rye, as well as throughout Westchester and my district and the rest of the state, I'm very concerned there are likely to be education cuts if we don't get additional money from Washington. and if the governor is not agreeing to be more creative in ways to find revenue. There is a proposal on the table for online gaming, sports gaming, which would be a source of revenue. There is a proposal for legalization of recreational marijuana, which would be a source of revenue. These are at the very beginning. I'll be sharing, and I'm sure you'll get a more detailed description. And of course, I'll be very anxious to hear what you think about the specifics, because sometimes the money flows from these things down to the villages in particular ways that the governor proposes that are not always ideal at the end of the day. And so our job is to really do our best, now that we have a supermajority in the Senate, to make sure our voices are heard. And also to get an on-time budget, which is extremely important for predictability, for bond rating, for people to be paid on time. So that I will get a more detailed description to you to circulate to everyone. I want to mention today we did in the Senate a small business package to try to protect small businesses from eviction for their inability to pay commercial rents as a result of COVID. I mean, obviously Portchester, many communities are seeing tremendous challenge of our small businesses, including restaurants, to make rent payments. We've done quite a bit for rental tenants, but today we started the process of trying to help our commercial landlords also to protect them against rises in their unemployment premiums when people were laid off as a result of COVID through no fault of the employer, but because there's been a reduction in employee workforce. I'm very much pushing for some changes in the unemployment laws that would allow people that work 4 days a week to continue to receive unemployment. 4 days is sort of an arbitrary rule in the labor law that if you work 4 days, you're not eligible, even if you only work 2 hours each of those 4 days. We ought to change it and modernize our unemployment laws so that people who are laid off, and everyone knows people who are being laid off, are able to collect unemployment, particularly while we're benefiting by an additional federal supplement towards unemployment. And hopefully with President-elect Biden's commitment to additional unemployment money for the states and additional state and local money in the next stimulus, we are going to be in a better future. But I would say the governor's presentation was quite dim and dark and did not give a sense that we're yet at the turning point to a better return to a better economy. I want to mention about the vaccine. We still have, as state legislators, meetings 3 times a week with the governor's office to talk about areas in which we have conflict or we want to make sure our voice is heard. On vaccines, I've been very clear that the county has been a fantastic partner, Georgia and the county legislature and the staff in every aspect of dealing with COVID. But I am not satisfied with the state's rollout of the vaccine. I know they haven't gotten enough from the federal government, and that is part of the problem. But the other part of it is they have to operationalize it in a way that people know when they're going to get it. So they started out with people thinking they could get appointments right away. Then they changed the rules and expanded eligibility to 65. And the first group, that 1A group, still doesn't all have vaccines. Some teachers do, and thank you for pointing that out. But I have firefighters who can't get it now because there's no available appointments, even though they were in the 1A classification. And now with people over 65 and over being eligible, which is great, we have many people who are 90 who can't get it. And there's great frustration for them as well. So the website that the governor has changed dramatically. And I encourage people to look every day if you're actually looking for a vaccine because it changes. But we are dealing with hundreds of our constituents, particularly older people who are frustrated, may not have email, may not be able to access, may not be able to get to a site. The county center site is a fantastic asset. All of the big state-run sites seem to be doing well, but we just don't have enough, and the process is not smooth enough, in my opinion.
Kelly, can I interrupt you
yeah,
on that for
yes,
1 second?
Yes.
I've had my own experiences. being that I'm over 75. The websites at the beginning were crashing.
Yep.
They are, all of the websites are filled,
Yep.
the major ones,
Yep.
and it's very frustrating. None of the pharmacies have vaccine, even the ones that are advertised to have them, they don't have them.
Yep.
It's a supply question. Many people, including myself, were able actually to get appointments in the Bronx.
Yep.
And and apparently, I guess the city has its own separate supply from the state. And my own personal view is that if the counties were allowed to run it, it would have been better.
I
But
agree.
but the state running it, there's very comparatively little problem getting a vaccine appointment. In fact, even David McKay Wilson pointed that out in his column last Saturday, and I happened to get an appointment in the same place. So they seem to be doing something correctly. The only difference is if you go to a New York City run facility, you have to be a city resident. But if you go to one of their private health centers that have the vaccine, it's not a problem. So, they could take a lesson. But I think in the end, it's really going to be a supply problem. As the pharmacies, set up their websites, the problem is they're not going to have the vaccine unless something happens to get more supply in, which we're hoping for, because of hopefully new suppliers will come online, like like the Johnson and Johnson and AstraZeneca. So we'll see. Anyway, I'm sorry to interrupt you on that.
Well, no, you
Point
didn't.
of personal experience.
I just want to point out, Gary, that at the beginning, sites that were not state-run were on the website. They are now off the website. We have asked by tomorrow for a complete list of non-state-run sites because pharmacies are going to be getting it. They will be eligible. You'll have to make a phone call and make your own appointment. It's really not optimal. I agree with you. The counties would have been far better as they've been helpful on the testing. And they've changed the rules multiple times in the middle of the game. So it's really been a problem. I completely agree and have expressed, and I know the majority leader has expressed to the governor directly the fact that we are not satisfied with the way this happened. And notwithstanding the shortage of supply, it doesn't mean the operation couldn't be better, and it should be.
Thank you. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
I just wanted to mention a little bit about the Portchester restaurant orange zone issue so that people understand what happened. And so as you all know, the Portchester being designated an orange zone meant that restaurants could not be open at all for indoor dining. And the disproportionate impact on Portchester was great, given the number of restaurants. In the tiny little village of Portchester has over 100 restaurants, as you all know, and many of them owned by Hispanic operators with small staffs, which they laid off. And it has been very dire. Steve Otis and I have been pressing the governor for over 2 months to revisit this orange zone because they changed the metrics of deciding who was an orange zone. And then once you were in it, you really couldn't get out of it. And even though Portchester did have high numbers in terms of positivity, the other metrics like hospitalization that became the basis for designations were not a problem for Portchester. So we could not get anyone to really pay enough attention to the impact, even though the restaurant owners, all the local officials, George, everyone who represents that community made their voices heard very loud. What happened ultimately is that the restaurants in Erie County in Buffalo sued. Were all in an orange zone, almost the whole county. Ultimately, the court held that the state did not have a good basis for keeping them in the orange zone, given that the transmission rate from indoor restaurants is very low, and ordered that they be allowed to open. Only the ones that were named plaintiffs in the lawsuit. That was not every restaurant in Erie County. But the governor's office, under pressure, said that while they're reviewing it, they would allow all restaurants in orange zones, which included Portchester, to reopen. So the reason Portchester restaurants, and not all of them can afford to, now can open for indoor dining, subject to the yellow zone designations, which is very limited, is only because of the successful lawsuit in Erie County. And there will be more lawsuits by others challenging some of the decision-making of the governor's office as not being based in science. So just a heads up so that people understand, because we tried very hard to do it based on the arguments of Portchester, but ultimately we were successful, in my opinion, because of what happened in Erie County. I did want to mention, and now I moved rooms because I lost power there for a minute, but we are introducing two bills at the request of the town. One is to anticipate the takeover of the functions of the Portchester Village Court, assuming that happens, to give the town the ability to add 2 part-time judges, to have them staggered in terms. Steve and I both have the same drafts. We are waiting for bill numbers. As soon as we get the bill numbers, Mr. Supervisor, we'll get them to you, and we'll move ahead. We know how important this is to the town, and we look forward to working closely. The other issue,
As you already have.
okay, good. And on the other issue that the supervisor raised earlier at the beginning of COVID, which he pointed out, and I certainly did not know, but under the existing provisions of the law, when you have these kinds of remote meetings, technically under the language, your house or where you are sitting is deemed a public space. Thereby, theoretically, someone could come over and say they want to be in your house as part of the public meeting. That obviously is not intended, wasn't intended for this time. We have put in a bill to amend that language, but that was something that your supervisor pointed out, certainly an unintended consequence of an old law, really, that was being used in the COVID context. As many old laws we are trying to update legislatively, or the governor has done some through executive orders. So I know that George is here, and nice to see everyone. I appreciate the opportunity to come by. I am there on the 3rd floor, 222 Grace Church Street, fairly regularly, but not all the time. And we continue to socially distance in our office, but I'm totally available. I will put my cell phone here in the chat for anyone who will that show up for the entire world, or will that show up for those that are participants?
I don't know the answer
It's only
to that question.
I don't know the answer either.
It's only
Sarah,
for the participants.
Okay, so I'm happy to, I'm happy to put it there, as well as my email. Please feel free to contact me, and I'm certainly happy to answer any questions. I just want to make sure that I was here to serve you as strongly as I can and as responsively as I can. And I have a great staff. They're working very hard. But this has been, as you all know, a very tough time to be an elected official and serve a community in great need. And we're trying to convey that and be constructive, get things done, distinguish ourselves from some of our colleagues in Washington, and really, try to make a difference. At the same time, there's no question the governor holds tremendous power still during the course of COVID. And while we are legislating in terms of these decisions he makes by executive order, we weigh in, we try to make our voices heard, but he still wields a disproportionate amount of power, which some people object to. I still think we need one person in charge while things are very challenging from a health point of view. And while I disagree with him on some individual decisions, I think he's led our state to a place where, compared to some other localities, our current rates are better, although not great, as George, I'm sure, will weigh in on. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
First, I want to thank you, Shelley. You're doing a great job for us.
Thank you, Gary.
I know I appreciate it, and I think the whole council appreciates it.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You can, criticism's fine too. I'm good. I come from a big family. I'm used to it. I say that.
Well, you and I had our discussions about the restaurant openings at
Yes,
your office. And I'm glad to see that at least they're able to open up and start serving people inside the restaurants.
Me too.
Because takeout and delivery just doesn't cut it for all restaurants.
And they were losing takeout, Tom, because
Yeah.
people were going to Mamaroneck and other places where, because this orange zone created this fear that simply going even for a takeout pizza at T&J's was somehow worse than going for a takeout pizza somewhere else. And I think that the problem is we really couldn't get someone to listen to that argument. And that I found that very frustrating. But we found a path which shows the value of some courts making decisions.
Well, you were very civil with me. You know how I get. And you were very civil when I was viewing my opinions to you.
No, I appreciate it.
I really appreciated that.
No,
Yeah,
thank
Tom, that's Tommy being Tommy.
Yeah.
Yes.
And even though we continue to eat outside in the freezing cold because we're crazy, we have been making our rounds of the Portchester restaurants, and they're all really excited and very grateful to be able to open their doors. It's been a tough year. They've lost their major holidays and income, and they're really looking forward to being open.
Yes.
Yes.
So we'll continue and also continue to work with a number of the Latino owners to try to ensure that they get their voice heard beyond this challenge. There'll be more challenges. And so I have been, along with many of the Portchester town officials, working with them. And I think many of you know I have Perla Arellano from Portchester who works with me, who speaks Spanish and is a tremendous asset in that community.
Shelley, what's your expectation for the Justice Court legislation in terms of timing?
I am hopeful we can get it done in a timely way because I think we've worked out that the Office of Court Administration is very supportive, which is a big part, that it doesn't cost the state money, which is a big, asset to moving forward, that we have the support of the municipalities. So I think we're lining up the ducks in a row to move in a timely way and to get it done before is it May? I don't have the paper in front of me, May 15th?
Yes.
Yes.
The operational date is May 15th.
Right.
But if I'm going to have the power of appointment along with the council,
yes,
we're going to need time to start to get resumes and to interview candidates. So I would like to make the appointment at the April meeting at the latest.
Well, I know you would, and we will do our best to be as quick as possible.
I know you will.
We will push together on this, Stephen.
So sometimes the institution, it's like the big ship, hard to turn with the little rudder.
Yes, it is. It is. But we understand there's time pressure, and we will try to do our very best to give you the time to make the choices that you wish and to move ahead.
Thank you, Shelley. And thank you for coming here. You're welcome anytime.
Thank you all.
All right.
Thank you, Shelley.
Thank you.
Be safe.
To George if you want. And welcome, Mr. County Executive. George said to me, he texted me, can I come to the meeting? What time? Around 8:30. I said, George, I think we're going to be done by 8:30. Because the agenda wasn't that. And then the commission meeting went late. And here it is, 8:30. So right on time. Thank you.
I think I interpret that to mean snap it up, George.
No, we don't have the reason I said it is we don't have a lot of controversial items on the agenda. We should get through it fairly quickly. So you can take as long as you want.
Well,
and even if I said not to, you would anyway.
I heard what you said, but I don't think you mean it, Gary. I think you want me to snap it, so I will. Very briefly, I appreciate the opportunity to visit. Obviously, Shelley covered a lot of ground with the vaccines right now, and I think it's fair to say we're in a race between how fast can we get vaccines out versus how much the rate of infection is going to continue to rise on COVID. It's clearly risen since the Thanksgiving holiday, as was predicted by Dr. Fauci back, I guess, September, October. He did say January was going to be a bad month. It is. And we've certainly seen a rise in November, December, from Thanksgiving to New Year's. Just to give you one metric to put into perspective, we lost 165 people from Westchester between Thanksgiving Day and New Year's Day, deaths. 165, Thanksgiving Day to New Year's Day. When we had a similar fatality amount in the spring, we lost 165 people from May 23rd until October 20th. Now think about that. Part of May, all of June, all of July, all of August, all of September, most of October, the same number of people that we lost in the 6-7 weeks between Thanksgiving and New Year's. And we didn't have public events. We didn't have the ball drop. We didn't have, parades for Thanksgiving or Columbus Day or Halloween or any of the things in the public that we had. So this is all private spreading of the virus. There is the UK strain now that is more communicable, but the numbers are rising as of today, over 11,600 active cases. We haven't hit numbers like that since late March, early April. There's slightly good news in that the hospitalization numbers are not as proportionally high now based on that number of active cases as they were in the spring. So in the spring, when we had about 12,000 active cases, we had 1,200 people in the hospital. Right now, we have 513, to be specific, that are hospitalized on a similar basis of people that are sick. So for whatever reason, less people more severely sick. The fatality numbers are also less. In the peak season, we were losing 30 and 40 a night. Unfortunately, we still have fatality. We know people, relatives, friends, people that, particularly in Portchester, my goodness, how many people do I know that we lost in Portchester? But the bottom line is that these numbers are climbing. We hope they'll level off, but the more people that get the vaccine, the less likely people will get the disease. The less likely people get the disease, the numbers come down and things get better. Then we can reopen the economy completely, which we all want, and we want it as soon as we can plausibly do it. Shelley covered the vaccine side in general terms. In very specific terms, the county government has two direct areas of responsibility. We serve as a partner to the state in the county center facility, which is our facility. They manage it and we help staff it. And in our county clinic in White Plains, where we also administer shots, vaccine shots. To date, we're doing over 1,000, almost 1,100 people vaccinated per day at the county center. The county center opened last Wednesday, so it's a week as of today. And we have had 8 a.m. in the morning to 7 p.m. at night. And the system appears to be running pretty smoothly, a little bumpy the first couple of days, no doubt. We got our share of complaints, but it seems to be pretty smooth now. And if we're averaging about 1,100 a day, that means we're over 7,000 vaccinations in that one facility. That's a lot of vaccinations, but you probably need about 5 facilities like that in order to reach the capacity that we need to reach. At the clinic, we've done an aggregate of 2,000, roughly 2,000 vaccinations. It's a much smaller facility, and there we're dealing with certain targeted groups. We're still in this 1A, 1B scenario where all first responders can be vaccinated, hospital workers can be vaccinated, certain lines of work are considered essential, teachers and bus drivers and so on and so forth, and then all the medical professionals. We have opened it now 65 and older, and also people who have certain types of illnesses, not any kind of illness. If you have, a bad back, that doesn't qualify you. But if you have hypertension or diabetes, that does qualify you, because those are the comorbidities that cost us people's lives in COVID. So we're looking to identify additional sites. And then, of course, as is happening now, the governor's, responsible for doing these things. He's having some sites that last a day or 2 or 3 in some of the urban areas. He's done in some of the churches, just like you have testing going on in Portchester on the church on Paningo Street. I expect that he will look for places where they can set up for some period of time, a vaccination area, and, all the possible places, Knights of Columbus Hall, Don Bosco Center, you name it. The state is going to look at it, and if and when they make that decision, then the county will have to help them implement it. So the combination of those two things are what really is what we're trying to deal with. The biggest problem, people call up and they can't get an appointment, or they get an appointment that's so far in the future they feel it's not going to come. We can only make appointments based on knowing that we have a certain amount of doses that are available to us. And you saw what happened at the feds level. They said they had a stockpile, and they don't. And Governor wanted to get it straight from Pfizer. Pfizer said, no, we're not dealing with individual jurisdictions. We'll deal with the federal government. So the federal government has to straighten this out and get us a steady diet. A couple of weeks ago, when they said we would have 330,000 doses in New York, do the math in a week. Do the math. There's 19 million New Yorkers. If everybody wants a dose, it takes you over 60 weeks at 330,000 a week to get to 19 million. And so clearly we can't wait a year. We've got to get this thing done beginning of the summer, end of the summer, whatever it is in that time frame. It has to happen if we want to try to get this disease on the run. From our standpoint, we're working through, Shelley, but just like we did with the restaurants in Portchester, we were all advocates. Members of the town board were advocates, village board, myself, Nancy Barr, Steve Otis, Shelley Mayer, because the decisions were being made by the governor, him and the people around him. And, everybody's got a different style. Pick up the phone, call Fritz, call Gary, call George, we're fine. We'll talk. It's harder to get through to the governor, and it takes time to move him when he has aggregated the authority to do these things. So we're going to keep trying to be helpful in those ways. We're going to help with testing as well. We haven't forgotten that testing is still a big part of this. The Portchester schools need that assistance in getting test kits if they're going to stay open at whatever level they make that decision to stay open. And then also general testing in the community, because the Portchester portion of the town is still in this orange zone, even though they've made some adjustments on the restaurant side. Rather than go on and on, I think it's, there's other issues on the table. We passed the county budget that we hope will lower taxes again for the second straight year. We've maintained our basic services. We have work to do in a lot of areas. The airport, which is in your backyard, has had practically no commercial flights. There is general aviation flights going in and out of there. They haven't reached the levels that they were before. So it should be somewhat more quieter, although some folks will be unhappy, with the noise that generates from there no matter what. And any other issues, Gary, Mr. Supervisor, I'm happy to stop before the hook comes out and take any questions.
Never any hook for you, George.
A visible
Never
hook.
any hook. Never any
Visible hook,
hook.
and it's watching people fade off and go to sleep.
I did want to ask you one thing. I meant to ask Shelley, and this is a very specific question. There's been some talk among the supervisors, and in fact, we got an application today, an application for COVID relief in the payment of taxes. I am not aware that there's any legislation pending. I know that there was some legislation in Albany regarding counties that applied to counties that collected taxes. But I don't know that it was signed or would be signed. There was some objection from the supervisors. But the question I have is, do you know of any plan like we had last spring with county tax bills coming due in a couple of months to allow non-payment of county taxes due to COVID, or an extension, or a minimization of interest for late payments? Do you know if there's anything like that on the horizon at the present time?
We raised the issue within our executive committee just in the executive branch to look at what we ultimately agreed upon last year, which was a two-phased situation, and determine if we were going to advance that for second year. And we needed to have dialogue with the Board of Legislators. We went through the process we went through last year before we got to the finished product. Two questions in my mind. When we did that last year, we did it because the federal government had delayed federal tax obligation to July 15th. And then the state followed, which it makes logical sense since one is tied to the other. And the state defaulted to July 15th as a due date. And as we're sitting here today in the middle of July, I haven't heard that either the state or the feds would do it. I don't know that we would do it unilaterally or try to do it just for the county, unless it was a more societal delay. I also don't know how many people took us up on the benefit of being able to delay the payment by 75 days. So it's under discussion. I assume what we would advance, if we advance something, would be the exact same thing we did last year. And if you've had a chance to analyze what happened last year in Rye-Town, that would be a helpful input into the dialogue. In other words, how many people actually came in, actually asserted that they had a hardship and actually deferred their taxes. Things looked pretty bleak when we did that back in the spring. And then by the time we got to October, most communities did not have a drop off in their property tax collections. So that may inform a decision. So no decision made, certainly. We're discussing it and we'll take the input that you may have, Gary, or the rest of your board.
Yeah, I remember we did not have much of a drop off in our collection. We did have a number of applications that came through. Not a substantial number. I think it was in the 100 or so. And of course, this was only for the county tax, not for the other tax.
Right.
And I think that, in fact, it was interesting because I think it was Damon Marr kept asking me from the Board of Legislators about how many people we had, and I gave him that information. I don't think that it had a substantial effect. And of course, you know, people took advantage of it who couldn't pay their taxes, but it was only a postponement of the taxes.
Right.
It was a decrease of the major benefit was a decrease of the interest for the late payment, but everybody ultimately had to pay their taxes. And, you know, and of course, you know, the corollary to that was, since we collect your taxes, you know, you have to let the towns off the hook for the payment of the county tax. Otherwise, it, you know, big burden on the towns, and even more of a burden for the school taxes.
Well, I think last year we also had a different situation. If you recall, when the pandemic first hit, people were losing their jobs immediately, and the unemployment system had not really kicked in at the state level. And so people were saying, I don't have the money to make a payment to do something in April, which once the unemployment benefits start to flow, which they did, I can then pay by July. So that was a factor in the delay side of it. The reduction of the interest rate certainly is helpful. How much that's an incentive, you know, whatever we did last year, we did in a compromised fashion, and we're prepared to have those dialogue this year. And if we do decide to do something, I would look to see what the state and the feds were doing as well, because that was the idea of lining it all up. So you had basically a new deadline date, July 15th, you got to square everything. That made logical sense to people. They didn't have one deadline date here, another one there, and so forth.
Yeah, I find it interesting that the state extended the eviction deadlines and extended the foreclosure deadlines. So you might expect that they would possibly extend the tax payment deadlines beyond, you know, April 15th, but that's to be seen.
I guess we'll find out by the time this budget comes through, because usually most of those policies are embedded in the state budget. And
Right.
So, but again, I promise not to take too much time. I did want to give you a quick update on those issues, and I'm happy to answer any questions. If not now, either when I see you around town, which I generally do in the course of a week, or at some future time, I'm happy to come back and we'll get into some greater detail.
You're always welcome here for any subject.
Thank you all. Very good to see you all. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, George.
Thank you, George.
Okay.
Thanks, George.
Bye, George.
Thank you.
All right, on to the agenda. Oh, we didn't even do did we do the minutes? I don't even.
Yes,
Yes.
we did the
Yeah.
minutes, right. Mhm.
Okay. Resolution designating our representatives to the Association of Towns Business meeting session, and that would be Judge Provenzano and Clerk Ann Capisi as our representative and alternate, as they have been for several years. May I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
A resolution permitting employees to carry over vacation days. Debbie, do you want to explain what this is about?
Yes, there are a number of town employees. Currently, the policy as set forth in the personnel manual is that employees may carry over as many as 5 vacation days that must be used by March 31st of the subsequent year. What's happened for a number of employees is they have not been able to take their vacation due to hardships, scheduling issues with COVID-19. and for various reasons. And I thought that the only right thing to do is to enable employees who have not been able to take as many as 5 vacation days to do so at any point during 2020 fiscal 2021, with the proviso that it is coordinated with their department heads. So that is what this proposal is that it will allow anybody who has 5 days to use those during 2021.
This is not in perpetuity, it's for calendar 2021.
That is correct.
That's only fair. I think it's fair. I think it's a good thing.
All right. May I have a motion and a second?
I'll make the
make-
motion.
I'll second.
If there's no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it. Thank you. The next resolution is to retain and renew the services of Helen Thurston as our grant writer. Debbie, you want to talk about this?
Yes, we have used the services of Helen Thurston off and on for several years. She has, at this point, I have experience with a number of grant writers, and she is far and away more effective than any grant writer I've worked with so far. We only pay her when she's doing work for us. As it happens right now, she is coaching our band of very amateur fundraisers through the process of pulling together a campaign to raise the funds to underwrite the bocce court that we put out to bid at Crawford Park. And her work is very useful, and I recommend that we renew her contract to be able to use her on an as-needed basis, but not to exceed. I don't remember the.
How does she overlap with Millennium? Or does she? What's the difference in work?
If it's oftentimes it's if we ask Helen Thurston to do work, it's work that Millennium can't really do, or doesn't really do, because we're paying Millennium on a retainer basis on a rate. So that and specifically in this environment where the grants really shut down, what Millennium has done, which is extraordinarily helpful and useful, is they happen to have an expertise in speaking FEMA. It's a language all its own. And they have been doing the lifting of our disaster filings and finishing up the administrative filings for the seawall submission, for our COVID relief expenses that can be submitted for disaster relief, for the tropical storm Isaias filings for that disaster relief. So that's the work that Millennium has been doing.
Yeah, that's for both, for Crawford Park and Rye-Town Park both.
Yes, correct. Helen Thurston, on the other hand, as I said, at this point, what she's doing is coaching the team into how to formulate fundraising skills, person-to-person fundraising skills.
Yeah, that's not the major, that's what she's doing now. But when the Grants Gateway opens up, she'll be used for other grants at her rate. You know, we're trying to balance off both what she does and what Millennium does. We have meetings about twice a month with Millennium about what grants are there, what they're doing, et cetera. It's on kind of a continuous basis. Helen is more focused on individual grants that we're working on. I think they're both worth it for what they're doing. That may change. We're going to look at Millennium when their contract is up in a couple of months and see if we want to keep going with them. But that's not for now.
Ashley?
I was going to say, based on what we're hearing you know, from Millennium, or what Millennium and Helen Thurston are hearing, do we have any sense of what the environment's going to be like for grants in 2021?
Interestingly enough, the CFA grants for the Green Infrastructure Grant Program just opened up 2 weeks ago.
Oh, wow.
And we had, it came as a surprise when it opened up. And because we had a grant already in the can from last year with Millennium, we were in the process of revising it and preparing to resubmit. So that's definitely a Millennium project. The DEC just awarded some tree grants. We had submissions, but did not get it. That's for urban forestry. So they're beginning to dribble out just a little bit.
We're expecting, you're gonna like this one, Lindsay. We're expecting the Bridge to New York grants to open up.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah.
I have a bridge in mind.
I know, so do we all.
So no, that's great. Like I said, it's going to be an interesting year. And I think it's going to be, when things open up, hurry up and get them out. And
Yeah, well, we're in a position to be able to do that.
yep, that's fantastic.
All right. Further, may I have a motion in a second?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All right, let's call the roll on this one, please.
Hope you're on mute. You're on mute.
Yes. Councilperson Axelrod,
Yes.
Councilperson Jackson,
Yes.
Councilperson Jaffe,
Yes.
Councilperson Nardi,
Yes.
and Supervisor Zuckerman.
Yes, thank you. And next resolution is regarding the New York State Retirement System, the standard workday reporting resolution. What is this about?
This is a requirement that was implemented in 2016. And a standard workday reporting resolution has to be adopted every year. Elected or appointed officials may participate in a timekeeping system, but if they do not, in order to be in the system, they have to fill out a records of activity report. And every year, and it's a 3-month report, and we have to have a resolution adopting it and send it up to the New York State local retirement system. So this resolution that we are adopting tonight, hopefully adopting, it has to be posted for 30 days and then sent up to New York retirement system.
Okay,
It's a
great.
new requirement. And if someone doesn't opt into it, then someone from will contact them from New York State and they could work with them.
All right,
Mhm.
thank you.
Yes.
Any questions?
No, I remember this vaguely from last year and I remember opting out maybe, but I remember we talked about this at the Association of Towns.
Mhm.
All right, may I have a motion in a second?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Boy, that's the end of the resolutions.
Mhm.
Okay.
Do we have any reports? Let's work from the bottom. Hope Town Clerk report is submitted.
Submitted, right.
Receiver of taxes collection, Nick's not here.
Not
Yeah.
here, but he asked me to speak. And he's sorry, he was under the
Figured.
weather, he couldn't come tonight. But he just wanted to mention that due to a limited staff right now, a tax office is making every effort to return calls and process the mail and post payments. And it will be done and up to date within the next few days. So we just wanted to send that message to everyone.
Thank you, Hope.
You're welcome.
Thank you to Nick, if you're listening in. Davey, you have any report on the tax receivables,
Just a quick,
on the interim receivables?
just a quick update that we closed on 2 of the 6 properties we received bid on that was approved at the December 15th meeting. So 2 of the properties closed on January 7th. We received the checks. Dan Tartaglia dropped them off in my office, and then they were deposited that day by Brenda through Scan. So he's trying to tee up, as he says, the other 4 properties that we received approved bids on. There is one of the properties that Westchester County released, which was 168 Hobart. There's still an update on the other property, which was 12 Terrain, Westchester County Housing Department.
Yeah, they released all the properties, David.
They released the other one. Okay, it didn't close, so I wasn't sure. So he's trying to.
I've been on Dan. No, he's trying to get them closed. Apparently, the attorneys on the other side are.
That's weird.
Okay.
I was hoping to close them this week.
Okay.
I signed some of the deeds already, so
Well,
hopefully they'll be done, and you'll have the money before the end of January.
okay. That's when he calls me, when they're closing and he gets the check. That's all I care about. That's it.
Well, we don't want you to spend any money you don't have.
No, not at all.
All right, we have Jeff is on. Jeff has got the next set of petitions. He's got the index numbers, and we're ready to serve them. And there's a whole bunch of commercial ones in there, right, Jeff?
Correct.
Okay. Other than that, do you have anything?
No.
All right, we have our quarterly tax certiorari meeting next week with all of the school districts and municipalities, which is always a fun day for us. Tell them what they can expect to pay back or not. And that's it for me.
I want to offer that the Hillside Avenue Bridge project has gotten approval from the Department of Transportation, and we are proceeding to go out to bid.
Hey, hallelujah.
Agreed.
Right.
This is a process that started at a meeting around our conference room table in 2016, right after you were elected.
Yeah.
Right. With Rich Slingerland, who since moved on.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even before that, we were discussing
Oh,
the need to replace it, well before.
I'm going to tell you right now, I've been discussing that since the Carbon administration when I was on there. So
Yeah, you want to know something? It took us to get it going in a tri-part, town of Amerenik, town of Rye, village of Amerenik. And I think that's why we got the grant. So all 3 communities were involved.
yeah,
As well as the Army, we brought in the Army Corps of Engineers, which didn't hurt.
no.
All right. All right. Do we have anything else? Anybody want to say anything?
I just want to say, support your local Portchester restaurant as much as possible. I want to thank Camille and Vic for a fantastic night of lights at the end of last month. That was absolutely fantastic, and thank you so much for that. And I'm wishing everyone a happy and healthy new year.
Yes, and especially healthy for all of us.
I agree. The welcome home to Crawford was phenomenal. I can't believe that they put it together with a week, and the community turnout was fabulous. I also want to thank Debbie and Vic and Vic's team for this past weekend working with me and David Thomas and a group of intrepid 14-year-olds from Blindbrook to clean up the African American Cemetery, which I think is a place of great local interest and history, deserves, seasonal beautification. And we've been talking about ways to kind of highlight it a little bit more. So hopefully that's something we can work on more, but I do thank Vic and I thank Debbie for their support in that day of service.
Yeah,
That's
speaking
fine.
about the African American Cemetery, I've asked our historian to work with Dave Thomas and see if we can put everything he knows and anybody else knows in one place and put it on our website.
That would be fabulous. I wish more people knew about it. It is so special. It's very much a blessing to have that in the town and something to celebrate.
Even
Really
though
is
it
a
costs us
hidden
money to
gem.
take care of it.
I've seen
But
that.
even though it costs us money to take care of it, it is a blessing. You're right.
It is a blessing. It's an important piece of history and it's something to celebrate.
I've seen that. I've seen the African American Cemetery really flourish since when I was superintendent of highways. Over the years, I've seen how it's getting progressively nicer looking, and a lot of work's been done to it. Over the years, I know John Zick has done a lot of stuff there to help out clean. There were weeds and it was overgrown, but it's really coming along.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
John was there the
I
entire
was there.
time Sunday. Two
Truckloads. And thank you, Debbie, for getting there in due time after I pulled out like 7,000 of these furry red creatures. And you're like, that's poison ivy. I was like, oh, giant red furry vines.
How you doing? Like no problems? No, nothing itchy?
Just I was using my clippers. I'm not gonna touch those again. Those were getting burned.
And we would be remiss to discuss the cemetery without acknowledging that there is a dedicated group of people who are really committed to the cemetery and preserving its history, including Dave Thomas. And they really do a good job in, drawing attention to it and passing on the history of the cemetery.
Yeah.
They've kept it really, really well compared to what it used to be.
Yeah.
It's a really nice place.
Follow the Friends of the African American Cemetery on Facebook, and they do have, Dave said that he hosts ceremonies on Memorial Day and various points through the year. So.
Yeah.
And I just like to say one other thing, like I want to go like with Jill, with please go to the restaurants, when you can, the Portchester restaurants. And if you're sick, please stay home. If you're not feeling well, let's try not to spread this horrible disease. And that's about it. Happy New Year to everybody.
Thank you, Tom. We skipped a couple of reports here. I'm sorry, Denise. You have anything for us? You're on mute, I guess.
Sorry about that. I dropped off for a couple minutes and I have nothing new to report other than on December 28th, the governor passed a law so that certain seniors who are getting what's called the aged exemption or the senior aged exemption, and people getting the persons with a disability and limited income exemption do not have to renew their exemption this year. It's only for this year. And the only reason why they may want to renew is if their income has gone down. And if that has happened, they can contact our office. We can discuss that with them. We can provide them with the renewal application. But this is all good news so that the seniors don't have to come into the office or get stressed out about renewing their exemption application. And I just posted information on the website, and we may be able to get something in the Westmore News about it. And a robocall should be going out from me by the end of this week regarding that.
Very good. And I was going to mention the website, put it on the website.
Yep.
And Crawford Park, Camille and Vic, anything?
I can give you an update for the end of the year that we finished the year with 344 events. And we brought in rental fees of a little over $30,000. So all things considered, it was a good year. And just year to date, we already have 40 events booked for 2021 and 1 booked for 2022.
Great.
So we're moving.
anything from you? You're
You're on
muted.
mute.
Mute.
Mute, mute,
Mute.
mute.
Victor, mute.
There you go.
I'm here, Gary.
Tell-
No, just staying real busy with a lot of proposals, a lot of estimates, a lot of research. Got a lot of good things that could happen this year at Crawford as well as Wright Town Park.
I think it's worth pointing out that we have a serious initiative to go green with our landscaping equipment, and Vic has done, and his staff have done the research and put together an analysis for lawn mowers, trimmers, blowers, and a gator, all electric.
And we
Right.
do,
That's what I was waiting for you to say. That's what I was waiting for you to say, Vic.
All right, well, that's,
Debbie stole your thunder.
how's this, Gary? We possibly could be the first park in New York State to go totally green.
Wow, that's big.
and Debbie, do you want to talk about what you and Sarah are working on with Sylvie? In regards,
No.
no? Okay. Sorry, we are working with, yes, Jeffrey just came on board here, with a student from Columbia University who happens to be Jeffrey's daughter, but to get certified various levels of green, from recertifying as a tree city to a clean, help me here, Debbie.
All right, a climate smart community.
Right.
And there's a third certification that we are going for as well.
So hoping by the end of the year, working in tandem to have all these in place for the town of Rye.
Great. Thank you.
Which in turn will in and of themselves, each one is just a goal that is perfectly in line with our sustainable policy and priorities, but will also strengthen our applications for other grants that we have been applying for and will continue to do so.
I just want to say our college student helper is a powerhouse. So we thank our town attorney for recommending her to us.
I recuse myself from that.
Good.
Anyway, fine. And then one last thing on the park. Sorry, I'm so noisy. Gary, your historian did come up with a really interesting history of Crawford Park, which I believe he's talking to the other Gary before we have a finished version to put on the website.
Right.
Yes, our architect, Gary San Francisco.
So it's really interesting. And I think the community will enjoy reading the history. It might be unfamiliar to many.
Great. I think it'll be great. And he'll work on, and as I said, he's going to talk to Dave Thomas. Dave always comes to one of these events that one of you mentioned, Memorial Day, Veterans Day, all of those. He always comes up with something new with a piece of paper or two.
Mm-hmm.
I said to him, Dave, let's put it all in one place.
I did both. Greg Hamilton came to cleanup day.
Yes, he did.
Right, and I sent Greg on to David to get all that information, put it together, and we'll get it on the website.
He's close.
All right, great. Okay, I just want to wish everybody a happy New Year as well. Thank you all. And I apologize for my glitches with my iPad today. And I apologize for letting the commission meeting run over the way it has. But sometimes that happens.
Don't get lost in the tunnels again, Gary. Don't get lost in the tunnels.
I know.
That's a demerit for you, Gary.
Right. Thank you. May I have a motion to adjourn?
I make the motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'll see you all next month, and I'm sure I'll
See you.
talk to you before that.
Okay.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Night.
Good night, everyone.
Night, everybody.